Gordon Dalglish here this morning. Delighted to have with me Ralph Thompson from Askernish Golf Club in South Uist in the Outer Hebrides Islands. Ralph, good morning.
Good morning.
And you have just a wonderful story to tell. I mean, you're the one of the driving forces behind Askernish. We've been trying for the last year with our podcasts to introduce people to new golf courses and ideas in the golf world. And of all the places that I've been to, Askernish must rank up there. You know, you've had a US poet laureate write about Askernish. You've had some of the golfing royalty, the Mike Keisers, Tom Dokes of this world, come and visit, and it's an old Tom Morris golf course. So you've got quite a lot to chat about this morning. So I certainly appreciate your time. Now, walk me through, Ralph, how you got involved with Askernish. Are you from the island originally, or did you just kind of stumble upon it one day?
No. My family is from South Uist. My mother's side is from South Uist, going back to 1700 and dot, basically. But I was brought up just more or less in Glasgow. But I was out here like what they call a Glasgow Highlander, sent out here every summer. Worked in the place and had a big affiliation to Uist. I came here all the time. And actually married a girl, believe it or not, a Flora McDonald from South Uist. Wow. And basically what happened was I always would like to have come back here, but my father died in 1988. My mother was left here alone. She was basically in a bad way. She'd been married since she was 18. And I was working in Aberdeen and I was doing a wee bit of consultancy work for different things, and I got a phone call about a business out here that was in a wee bit of trouble, and could I help? And I said, well, it's ideal. I can go out and I can look after my mother and sort out what we're going to do. So I came out in 1988 and never left. So ended up carrying on, and I worked for different companies and stuff. But the golf, I was a very keen golfer when I was after football and rugby. I took up golf when I was about 20 or something. Very keen, mid-20s. Came out here, renovated the old family house, started a family, so golfed at a back seat, and then probably started around about 2000 again, started playing again. And the course was 9-hole 18T course then, not in good condition at all. There was a couple of people, volunteers, trying to cut stuff with old equipment. And I became involved in it and ended up chairperson to see what we could do with the course. The main thing that we kind of fiddled away really, but probably about 6 or 8 of us playing golf. And then in October 2005, I got a phone call from the person that used to be the factor of South Uist Estates. I don't even know what a factor is. A factor is like a land manager.
Yep.
Who used to be here, and I was very friendly with. I was involved with the buyout of the actual island, who we dealt with him. Anyway, he phoned up from Ayrshire and said that he had a golf course consultant in and who wanted to do some fishing, and started talking about golf. And Tim Atkinson, his name was with Gordon Irvine, and told him, oh, I've just come from Uist and there's an old Tom Morris course out there and it could do with doing up. And of course, Gordon said, no, there's not an old Tom Morris course in Uist. There's Machrihanish, I think, is the furthest west, I believe. So anyway, so no, there definitely is. So cut a long story short, they phoned me and I assured Gordon, I said, well, I've actually got paperwork, I can prove it. So Gordon came out first week of December 2005. Horrible day, misty, drizzly. And I thought this is going to be embarrassing. He was actually renovating a deal in Kent at the time, very well-known course. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I wish I hadn't invited this guy out here to because in December and in October, we actually put cattle and sheep on the course. So you can imagine there's quite a lot of cattle drops and stuff. I was getting a wee bit worried, but it came out and it was like the Pope visiting people. He actually jumped out the car, started looking at the turf and said, this is unbelievable. That Deal would have paid a fortune for turf like this. So that was a good start. I then took him up to the sort of highest point of the course. Until I understand, then we had 18 tees, but 9 holes, but it was all in a flat area of the marker land, as we call it. The actual dune system was not being used at all. So I took him up to the top, the highest point, and pointed down into the dune system. And he started claiming that he'd found the holy grail of golf, and as well. So we went back to the hotel, and he discussed, look, he could get volunteers and actually restore the course. Sorry, but the dunes were, of course, was for the original Old Tom Morris course was in 1891. Sorry, that's where I pointed that out.
So, Ralph, let me just interrupt very quickly here. So, how did Old Tom Morris in 1891? I mean, number one, it's important that folks understand where South Uist is, and we'll put up a map to show it. I mean, it is remote with an underscored. I mean, it's a spectacular part of the world, but certainly remote. So, why did Old Tom Morris, come in the 1890s to build a golf course?
Yeah, he was actually asked by Lady Cathcart. And Sir Reginald Cathcart, who owned the island. He had already done a course for them up in Aberdeenshire, Clooney in Aberdeenshire, and their estate there, a wee 9-hole course. And they invited him out to do the course. So he came in early July 1891, accompanied by Horace Hutchinson. Horace Hutchinson, who well-known golf writer, very well-known later on. And basically, if you imagine then Askernish, like a lot of these, the way the links golf courses were formed, Askernish was a working farm. So every flat bit of land was ploughed. They had the dune system there that was not being used, and they were actually inviting, lords and ladies were coming out here shooting and fishing. It was basically a working estate. And golf, of course, had taken off in a big way. And so they wanted a golf course that the lords and ladies of the land could entertain themselves on in the evening if they didn't want to go shooting and fishing, whatever. So he came out, did the usual way, walked around, put stakes in the ground, that's a tee, that's a green, and was here for 3 days. He then left to go to Stornoway. Stornoway had actually built a links golf course a few years earlier, and he ended up there just to look at it. That was lost in probably just before pre-war, when the airport was actually built in the Stornoway golf course, the original one.
Okay.
But anyway, he left, and of course the working farm, the masses of estate workers, the feudal system as well, the way it worked with crofts. People had to go and give a hand, actually, some days just working for the estate. So the course was cut with scythes. That remained the case. They actually opened in August 1891, the lords and ladies and a few local dignitaries, doctor, minister, don't think the priest was there right enough, a couple of teachers, formed South Uist Golf Club. And they started playing. So that carried on until the First World War, when, of course, all the men from the Hebrides were sent away. So the course was went to rack and ruin. And when the men came back after the First World War, like a lot of the land in Scotland, they were told, land fit for heroes, so we're going to get given land, etc. The old class system, no way you got it. So they started doing land raids. And in 1922, Askernish was turned into croft land. It was split up into crofts. But this time, the course was gone. And then in 1936, they started a daily air service from Renfrew, the old Abbotsford Airport in Glasgow.
Yeah.
You'll probably remember, you're old enough, yeah. Used to come out 6 days a week. And again, it was lords and ladies coming out, shooting and fishing. But they actually had to get machinery to cut the runway. And so one of the guys that came out was a guy called Derek McCready, who was apparently a well-known amateur golfer. And they asked him to lay out a course, which he laid out 12 holes. And that was maintained by the people that did the airport. I remained like that, not very well used until Dr. Robertson came here in 1958. And he was a really good, I think he played off two actually, although he had polio when he was young. A pal of Eric Brown. And absolute golf fanatic. So he started playing golf, starting to get the golf club going again. And then, of course, the 1960s and 70s were boom time out here. And they built a rocket range. And the army came, they were building hundreds of houses. And the golf club was actually booming. So he laid out the course that we knew as youngsters. The 9-hole, 18 green, 18 tees in 1970. And that remained the way until, which we always played on, but until 2006 when we started the renovations.
So it was from the visit in 2005 that everything started to cascade. And, when I made reference earlier to kind of the golfing royalty, the Tom Dokes, Mike Keisers of the world, Martin Eberts, was that first visit back then was kind of prompted a lot of the follow-on visits?
Yeah, what happened was in March 2006, Gordon came out with Martin Ebert, Chris Haspell, do you know Chris?
Yep, he was up at Cool Links. Yep.
Adam Lawrence, who was the head of golf course architecture.
Yep.
They came out and basically we decided to do what old Tom Morris did. We actually walked into the dunes and, of course, everybody had their input and we laid out 18 holes. Martin became involved because Gordon Irvine was obviously the driving force behind this.
Yep.
And Gordon knew Martin well. So it's quite a good story that Martin really struggled to get him out. But of course, we had absolutely no money at all, not a penny. And I phoned him up and he wasn't keen. And I said, well, what we'll do is we'll pay you the same as old Tom Morris got paid. And he says, what do you mean? I says, well, it was 17 and 6. I said, we can't come for that. I said, what, are you saying that you're worth more than old Tom Morris? So he found that very amusing and he came out. And actually, I did give him a check for 17 and 6 many years later. So Martin, of course, has gone on now to great things since Mr. Trump got a hold of him, But great guy, very enthusiastic, especially links golf, great guy. But what happened, so we started all this and then I started a scheme to sell life memberships. But what happened, one of the papers got a hold of the story and publicised it and said there was thousands of people coming, and it ended up there was a big huge land dispute with crofters and everything, So I was reading a magazine just not long after we'd started and trying to advertise, and there was a few people became involved from Temple Golf Club in London for somebody, and he read about it and he started, a printer friend started writing did some backing for us. Anyway, I was reading a magazine about Bandon Dunes and about this guy, Mike Keiser, who had built a golf course in the Midland over, and everybody thought he was off his head, nobody'd go there, and it was turning out to be really successful. And I can't remember how, but I got his email address somehow, and I sent him an email just saying that, I'm in the middle of nowhere here. I think I'm renovating old Tom Morris golf course, and if there's any advice you can give me. And he actually came back within 10 minutes. And he said, I'm just sitting reading a magazine here all about your golf course. So he, anyway, we communicated, maybe once every couple of weeks. I would ask him a question. And Mike Keiser is well known that I, the same as I'm doing just now, can't stop talking. When I emails, they're kind of stories. But when he replies, you're lucky if you get more than 4 words, but every bit of advice he gave me was just fantastic. Stuck to it. It was just really, really good. And then eventually he came out. We finished the course. Not quite finished. In 2007, he came out with his sons. And quite an amazing guy. Probably about the sharpest person I ever met in my life. In that I could have answered any question anybody asked me about Askernish this time. All hundreds of documents of history, but he would ask questions I had to think about. Anyway, he wasn't happy about a couple of things that we're doing. And he then came back to me and offered me, I think he offered us £10,000 actually, to actually do something with the greens and fertilise them. And I went back to him and said, well, we've actually got £6 in the bank at the moment, but I don't want your 10,000 because if we fertilise these greens and use stuff, then we're going to have to always fertilise them when we can't afford it. And we don't want to do that. We want to keep it natural. So he went away anyway, but he must have been impressed because he came back and he says, I want to send Tom Doak out there to have a look, see what else can be done. Tom, I think probably at that time would have been regarded as the top architect in the world, actually. Tom came out, meant to spend 1 day. I think he stayed here for 3 in the end. Very introverted guy, but ended up very, very friendly and we're arguing about different things, what to do. But eventually we came up with a couple of things that the 17th hole, the green, we're never happy with. We decided to build a new one and reshape the 7th green, and the 16th hole, which is quite an amazing hole. We call it Old Tom's Pulpit. It's how we up on top of that hill. We'd argued about that. But anyway, cut a long story short, they decided that he would send Eric Iverson, who was a shaper, out, do the work. And Mike Keiser kindly said that he would pick up the bill for the whole lot, everything. So they come out and I would just send them bills for all the stuff. At the same time, there was a Canadian came called Gordon Stollery. He came out and just loved the place and heard the story, and he actually signed several checks for me as well to the same equivalent as Mike Keiser. I won't tell you how much, but tens of thousands of pounds for the same. He sadly died a few years ago. So that was the nucleus of funding that we got. But we also sold a lot of life memberships, most of them in North America, funnily enough. And that funded the building of the whole course. So
that's terrific. I mean, but the fact that you got the attention of, I mean, Mike Keiser is one of the great gentlemen of the game of golf. I've been fortunate to play with him and been around him a couple of occasions over the years, and he certainly knows how to build facilities which are remote. I mean, he very much takes the view that if you build it and it's great, they will come. From Cabot up in Canada to Bandon Dunes and elsewhere. But obviously to get their attention, and Tom Dokes of the world don't, glibly pass out their praise. So you're to be commended for that. Now, it's kind of a living golf course museum to some extent. I mean, the fact that you don't want to use chemicals and fertilizers, I mean, it's very much sustainable. It's a good example of the most basic sustainable golf course. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, absolutely. At that time we were using seaweed, sand off the shore for top dress and stuff like that. No chemicals at all. It's actually built in what they call Macher land, which is actually a very amazing land. It's just, you go down 4 inches, you hit sand, so it doesn't flood. And if it does flood, it'll be away within hours. So fantastic surface. But when Tom came out, actually, we walked him around, and I say he's quite an introverted guy, very quiet guy. And myself and another guy around with him walked 18 holes. He never said a word, nothing. Never made one comment. I went back to the wee clubhouse we built and with a beer, and I was just desperate. I just said to him, "Well, what did you think?" He just turned down and says, "Well, I don't know why Mike Keiser sent me here." He says, I wouldn't want to change anything. So,
wow.
Well, a few wee bits and pieces we did. So, we're so happy about it.
That's praise indeed. That is because that is just fabulous. So you have to tell me how you the US poet laureate who wrote a poem on an Askernish. I mean, that's quite something there.
What happened there was Billy Collins, who I'd never heard of, to be honest. Suddenly the Blue contacted me, and I didn't even know who he was. Billy Collins contacted me. Somebody gave him my number, and he was tracing his family history, and that his family had left Uist, I think about 1830, 1840, McIntyres. Again, I think that's right. And anyway, eventually he came on the phone and we talked away, and I told him, well, there's a few places that he could go, I can maybe help him, and something's come up about golf. And I said, well, we're actually having the Askernish Open in 1 month's time, 2 months, whatever. Why don't you come out and you get a good weekend and stuff? And at that time, I still didn't know who he was. He was a Billy Collins, Anyway, then he sent a couple of emails, and from the emails, when you started looking at the bottom, it was obvious that he was a poet. So, but he came out, lovely guy, really nice guy, and of course wrote a wee poem about South Uist, and I sent him away, and he found out about his family history, and so that was it.
Terrific. You talked about the Askernish Open. Now that's an annual event on the calendar that involves folks coming in to play golf at Askernish and locals, and it goes on for several days.
Yeah, we started about maybe 2012, maybe 2011. We took a chance and says, right, let's try to get people to come out for 1 day's golf all the way to Uist. As you can imagine, it's difficult. So we came up with the idea of a 3-day event. The first day would be a Mackenzie and Ebert event, and then we'd have the Askernish Open on the Saturday. On the Sunday, we'd have a team Texas Scramble, just a very friendly affair. And it really took off, and it's an absolute complete sellout every year. We have to turn people away. The 140 people is the most we can take each day, and I mean, 1 year, about probably 2015, we had people from 10 different countries.
Wow.
We have 6 people who come from Finland every year. They've come every year since, and it's absolutely fantastic weekend. And but I say we're turning people away now. We've got that stage.
That's what you call a good problem.
That's a good problem. Yeah. To come the rest of the year being better than,
Now, did I see where Askernish was ranked by Golf in the top 100, maybe by a British magazine, number 49 recently?
That's right. Yeah.
Which speaks well to what you've achieved. What are some of your favourite holes when you're out playing? Do you have any favourites or stretches of holes that?
Okay, I mean, the stretch from the 7th hole around to the 16th is just something else, My favourite hole is the 8th hole, and it's called Kelpie, which the away back in the year dot, the estate was kept going by the gathering of kelp from the shore, seaweed. Mm-hmm. That's called Kelpie, and we built that. We found a tee, and we found. Well, we just walked, and there was a natural green there, which must have been one of the original old Tom Morris greens, because it was just a flat area. It was just not quite flat, but it was obviously created, or just sitting there. That's my favourite one. But the seventh hole is absolutely fantastic. The first hole, you're walking around the flat area of the course for the first six. You come to the highest point, and then you look down and you see the shore, Isle of Barra, seventh hole, very, very difficult hole, called the Cabinet Minister. You might be aware of the book Whiskey Galore by Compton Mackenzie.
Yep.
Which is all about the SS politician, which went aground off Eriskay in 1941, I think it was. When he wrote his book, instead of calling it the SS politician, he called it SS Cabinet Minister. So what we did with the names of the holes was we sat down, three of us one night, and we tried to make each hole give it a name that eventually one day we would have caddies here, and each hole would have a story to do with the island. So we thought that was a good idea.
That's a terrific idea.
Yeah.
Some of the other names that's come to mind of holes, any unique? I imagine there was maybe a bottle of whiskey involved in the naming of the holes.
Yeah, well, the 18th is called Slange Maha. So
yep.
You're heading to the 19th hole, and hopefully you're going to be saying that.
Yes.
There's things like the fourth is called Flora, not after my wife, but the most famous person from South Uist, Flora MacDonald. Yep. Things like the fifth hole is called Marloch, which was the last ship to leave about 1931 from Uist with all the immigrants that get sent away, to Canada. 12th, Peabrook. Do you know what a Peabrook is?
Peabrook.
I shouldn't tell you this story. It was that's the pipe tune that goes on forever and it hits a note about every 30 seconds. So it's very long and boring. And when we built the 12th hole, I thought it was very long and boring.
That's good.
So things like that.
You referenced your shortage of funds at a certain point in time. Now, do you still use volunteers to help with the maintenance of the golf course?
No, full-time course manager.
Gotcha.
And he takes in part-time people. But funnily enough, before the Askernish Open every year, Gordon Irvine comes back out with sometimes 2 or 3 full-time, professional greenkeepers.
Yep.
And they have almost a whole week to get ready for the Askernish Open. And we do occasionally get greenkeepers that just want to come out and see the place. And Gordon, the R&A actually have a student week out here every year. Like they bring students, land management students, and they work for here a week and do courses and stuff, so they can see how you can basically run a golf course without a huge amount of assets,
Yeah. So over the years, any notable names that have been out and played that come to mind?
I was hoping you would ask that. As you know, your brother took out Ronan Rafferty.
Yes.
With some rugby players. He actually came back 2 years ago. But there's been quite a few celebrities that people tell me, so-and-so from EastEnders and so-and-so was here. Unfortunately, celebrities are beyond me. I haven't a clue who these people are. So,
I understand. But now,
Kenny Dalglish is the most, actually opened the course for us,
Mm-hmm.
He came out, I'm actually speaking to him a couple of years ago, and I think we're going to try and organise a pro-am tournament that Kenny could come out and bring some of his football pals and stuff like this, and do a thing for his wife's charity. His wife's got a cancer charity, Marina. So.
As I think about Askernish and all that you've accomplished, it's so important. I mean, there's so many friends of mine that have been in the States that I think would just really enjoy seeing Askernish, and it's very much a case of folks that just enjoy getting back to the roots of the game. If you're somebody that just enjoys the pristine, the parkland golf course that no blade of grass it's the wrong place for you.
It's absolutely the wrong place. Yeah.
But if you just want to kind of understand a simpler time and a sustainable time and a golf course that was was created with love and attention and just a genuine enjoyment for the sport, I think Askernish would be a great addition to anybody's travel plans. You know, and can you speak for a second just about kind of life on South Uist and what that just kind of the community looks like? I have to believe that you will have some characters in your part of the world.
No, indeed, yeah. I mean, South Uist itself is part of the Western Isles archipelago, of course. With population 1,800, dwindling. Unfortunately, a lot of the youngsters, because of employment opportunities aren't great here. The main occupation in most of them was, apart from the council services, was the rocket range, which at one time employed about 400 people and a big army presence. But now with technology, they can operate, believe it or not, fire rockets from Aberforth and Wales, fire them out here. I think it's the only place in the world that with a rocket range that we can fire rockets straight into the Atlantic for 100 miles, 365 days a year. It's not a great thing to boast about, but we can do it. But shell fishermen, stuff like this, but tourism is a big thing. And the culture, of course, is very towards Gaelic, and Gaelic language. And also, South Uist is very famous for piping. Bagpipes if we're in America, you know. We have piping competitions here every year as well. But it's also very much still a crofting community. So it's very small holdings. People will be with a couple of cows and stuff like this, a few sheep. That would be a part-time thing, but very, very strong community-based thing. People look out for each other, and you come out here. We don't lock cars, we don't lock houses, we don't have to. No such thing as crime, really, you know. Fantastic place to grow up, bring up children, stuff like this, you know.
Yeah, I think the last 12 months have given all of us a different perspective on life, what's important. And I think that you're very fortunate to be living in South Uist and enjoying a quality of life that a lot of people would desperately aspire to. But Ralph, you've been exceptionally generous with your time this morning. We'll get some good images of Askernish and South Uist and share them with folks on top of the conversation here, because I think it just tells a great story. And I think golfers, like I said, would be well served by finding time to get out to see Askernish and enjoy the Western Isles. So thank you for your time, and I hope to get out there sooner rather than later.
No, thank you, and they'll be made very welcome. Same as yourself.
Take care now. Cheers.
Thank you.